breaking records in the city where I live.
Breaking records. 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 Breaking records.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Breakin Records podcast. I'm your host, Kelly K. Fresh Frazier. We got a trio of guests for this episode. We got Julian Gosson, Lumar LeBlanc, and Marcus Hubbard. Three members of the brass ensemble from New Orleans, the Soul Rebels. The Soul Rebels blend elements of contemporary hip-hop, trap, soul, bounce, and pop production mixed with world music and jazz, and they recently released their newest album, Poetry in Motion. During our conversation, we talked about the history of the band and how they evolved over the years, along with how they became one of the go-to backing bands for all sorts of A-list music artists such as Katy Perry, Nas, Marilyn Manson, DMX, G-Eazy, Rakim, Joey Badass, Robin Thicke, Rakim, and G-Eazy, among many, many others. We also get into the new album, Poetry in Motion, and they share some stories about the making of a few of the songs. So, let's get into this interview with Julian, Lumar, and Marcus of the New Orleans brass ensemble, the Soul Rebels. To, just start things off, please just go ahead and introduce yourselves and kind of, quick, introduction about who you are in the band.
My name is Lamar LeBlanc, snare drummer, Soul Rebels.
Marcus Hubbard, trumpet player, Soul Rebels.
Julian Gosson, trumpet player, MC, Soul Rebels.
Yeah, you guys, I was just listening to you guys' album. It is so good. It just goes into all these great, soulful, emotional places. It's like you have, it's just like what I love to hear in soul music, but then you guys are really in tap, like really bringing out the sound of New Orleans in this album, So when you were, putting this band together, like what was the common goal? What was the sort of initiative of the Soul Rebels?
Wow, you mean the initiative when we put the whole group together back in 1991?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's go back. Let's go back and tell the story.
Oh, okay. Well, wow. I mean, it was basically from a brotherhood standpoint. A lot of the guys had went to college and high school together, and they were playing brass band music with Dave Jones' Olympia Brass Band. And they wanted a junior band to that band, so they had the Young Olympia Brass Band. And from there, we were playing a little bit more aggressive music other than the traditional Saints Go Marching In, St. Louis blues type tunes. We were playing some of the funk tunes from Earth, Wind and Fire, Cameo. We even snuck in a little Tribe Called Quest and different R&B grooves like that, James Brown grooves. So when we did that, we didn't want to disrespect the traditional outfit. So we kind of said, man, let's be another group while we're doing this other group also, Young Olympia. Cyril Neville from the Neville Brothers, he had a more of a business idea, saying that, young black males have to kind of take control of their own destiny. He was doing some stuff with his relatives called Deaf Generation, and some of those members were in Soul Rebels, which was only Young Olympia at the time. So Cyril was like, get your publishing together, incorporate yourself and all that. Well, we couldn't incorporate Olympia because that was already incorporated and owned by Harold Duke Dejon. So he gave us a shot, Cyril Neville. He told us to come open up for him at Tipitina's. We opened up, we played mostly street music, stuff like Blackbird Special. That's New Orleans tunes. I'm quoting.
Right.
And then we did this song we had been working on called "Let Your Mind Be Free." It hadn't really been, how could you say, published yet, but we kind of came up with it. And at that time, New Orleans was in the midst of a crack epidemic. And we wanted to make a song that talked about stop the killing, stop the drugs, unite all the projects together, unite all of the people, and try to go forward with positive health and positive words. So that's what Let Your Mind Be Free, our first original song was. And after the show, Cyril was so outdone and impressed, he said, man, y'all sound like some soul rebels of this music, man. I had never heard the term before. But once I did my research, I found out it came from a Bob Marley song called I'm a Soul Rebel. So we thought the name was awesome and it stuck. So that's how the name came about. And like I say, the members basically came from that mindset. Always wanted to be, quote unquote, mainstream for whatever our mentality could rise to at that time. Trying to play exact rhythms, exact notes, put choruses to songs, verses, as much as we could with the mentality we had at the time. Like Julian said, he's the MC now. I used to actually do the raps back then. Her and some other people did the singing. So that's really like what you're asking. The groundwork was laid then. And it just permeated on up to what we got now, which is a masterpiece of artistry.
You know, you guys have been a part of so much, you know, so many great things, and have worked with so many great artists over the years. You know, how does those experiences go into making your own original music, especially this new album that is about to come out through your own label, the Poetry in Motion album?
Yeah, for us, it's like you say, the collaborations inspired a lot about this record, but it's always been something that Soul Rebels has always been trying to push for. Is basically we consider just doing the music that we love. You know, you have different members in the band, different generations in the band. We have guys from 25 years old all the way up to 52. So it's like, you know, we have different, you know, perspectives on what music we like and what music we want to kind of bring out, you know. And like you say, doing a lot of the collaborations and stuff is good to talk with those guys and just speak with them from a musical writing standpoint, or like their approach on how they come up with songs and stuff like that. So it definitely inspired a lot of different stuff on this record. And we decided that we wanted to do some collaborations on this record. So we thought it would be great to just, you know, just think about the different artists that we might want to collaborate with. Plus, you know, 8 members in the band, you have a lot of different perspectives on what direction you want the record to go. So it's you have to kind of get everybody's feedback on it and then kind of put it all into one gumbo to try to make it go at least in the same direction. So, you know, we've always experimented with different kind of music, from hip hop to pop to R&B. You know, jazz is always going to be a root, being that we are from New Orleans. So it's, you know, with this record, we just wanted to have it where we didn't put any boundaries. We didn't want to make this CD per se genre specific. We want to just make it whatever music we felt came to us at the time. We just gonna, whatever, if it's a Latin tune, we're gonna go all in on that Latin tune. Figure out, you know, the basis on how Latin tunes are created, you know, and what's the foundation for all of these different genres. And that's our approach to every song. If we decide to do a Latin tune, we're gonna get into it as if we're, you know, in that Latin vine, and we're gonna speak with people that's from that Latin vine to kind of give us the true, you know, roots on how you build these type of tunes. And I think it helped us a lot in the writing process, you know, making sure the records are authentic to whatever genre we were doing at the time.
Early on, when you were describing about, you know, the inception of this group, one of the things that stood out to me was that you're saying how when the music that you wanted to play, you still didn't want to, you know, disrespect the the history of New Orleans, but you wanted to play certain music, so that's why you sort of branched off into your own, bands. How does that ideology still exist today, with the Soul Rebels? How do you respect the history of New Orleans music while, also pushing the envelope in your own ways?
Well, the instrumentation still represents an authentic sequence of what New Orleans stands for when you think of New Orleans traditional jazz music: a sousaphone, two trumpets, two trombones, and a tenor saxophone. So we still hold true to that setup, but what we perform and what we play is more contemporary and much more apt to be what is going on today. The sound, the vibe, the tempo, just the whole thrust of it. So we're always going to be I guess, we love New Orleans. We're all from New Orleans, but I mean, we're always going to represent it in some form or fashion, not from just our birthright, but also from the instrumentation that we have. And, we're just trying to push it forward. I mean, we have pushed it forward. The guys here, Corey Pate, Julian Godson, Marcus Hubbard, myself, Derek Moss, Emmanuel, look at me, Eron Williams, Paul Robinson. Everybody has done that in the group.
With having 8 members of the group and having a very diverse range and age of the members, how do you sort of, take all the ideas, take all the unique perspectives of everybody in the band and sort of make everything work within, an album itself, like, Poetry in Motion?
Well, like you said, I think for us, we always talk about that. The age range for us, we feel is a blessing because it's like, me being, I'm in the almost the top or like closer to the middle of the age range group in the band. And it's like we're able to get different perspectives on, what type of music is going on. Because when you get to a certain age, certain music you're probably not even listening to. But it's good that we have someone in the band that is their wheelhouse. So it's like when we're doing, say, if we want to do a trap tune or something like that, we have guys in our band that's their thing. They listen to that all the time. And they eat and sleep that. So if we put a track together that's a trap beat, they'll let us know if that's going to be accepted by the people that, that listen to trap music versus, me being 40 and Lamar being 50. It's like we listen to it, but it's not really our wheelhouse. So we're blessed to have someone from every range that, even if we want to say we want to do a 70s tune, we have guys that grew up on that music, so for us it helps, and we always open to, we realize that, all right, this is Manuel Perkins, he's the youngest guy, we doing a certain tune in that range, we're going to respect his view, what he says is good or not on it. We're not going to say, look, try to force our thinking on it because we understand that he's more in tune with that than we might be. So for us, it's a blessing having that wide range. And I think, like you said, it helped a lot on the record. So when we hear different tunes and once we put them together, we're kind of be like, man, how does this feel to you, being that you're our youngest guy? So, and how does this feel to you, being the older person in the band? And we're able to get a wide opinion on how the track feels. And a lot of it we felt good all the way across the board. So we felt like that's what we decided, well, that's going to be a good tune because it seems like from the youngest guy to the oldest guy in the band, it fits well.
The musicality in New Orleans has a real rich history, with all the different genres that you've already named in this, in this interview. Like, is it, from your perspectives, has there been any sort of like obstacles from generation to generation understanding each other? Does that problem exist in New Orleans?
Yeah, I think it. I wouldn't say it exists, but it's definitely acknowledged. I mean, I know for a fact, like some of the, New Orleans is just a place but it's super built on tradition. And a lot of times they don't like to stray away from tradition.
Yeah.
So, whenever there's something that's not normal, they kind of react differently. And sometimes it's not always in the best way. So, Soul Rebels for sure, started with the tradition, but the mindset has always been, to kind of do what's right for the guys in the band and what the band always stood for. We've all paid our dues in the music, but at the same time, we also wanted to do what was true to us. So, with that being said, there were times where, the band got a lot of, negative feedback from the New Orleans, culture or some of the older guys, just because we were doing what we wanted to do, whether it be hip hop, R&B. It just wasn't the tradition. So, but eventually over time, people kind of grasped onto what we were doing and just kind of like accepted it finally. But there's still some hurdles we deal with, even on the road when we travel, and people from New Orleans expect a certain sound from us, and when we don't deliver that, they seem a bit upset.
Yeah.
And so we're still trying to knock those barriers down, and let people know, especially from New Orleans, like there's other methods and other approaches to this music, and stop pigeonholing us to the tradition in which you only know, because a lot of times those people, they aren't even heavily involved in the culture. They just like to represent and claim the culture because they're from New Orleans. You're talking about people that probably haven't even been to a second line or, paid $5 to get in the club to hear a brass band play. But when you see us on the road, you want to boast and brag about your New Orleans culture, and you expect this and expect that, but you haven't even really done your homework and research and to see how the scene has, drastically changed and how bands evolve. Music evolves, everything evolves, and it's just kind of frustrating when you get labeled simply because you're from New Orleans and what they expect the norm for you to sound like, because it's not the same, for Beyonce. She doesn't get labeled as a Houstonian wherever she goes on tour.
Right.
She gets labeled as Beyonce. It's just Beyonce. They don't get, why aren't you doing Texas music or, country, western, or cowboy music? She doesn't get that. She just gets Beyonce. But we get, why you didn't play this song, and why don't you have the Mardi Gras beads, and why didn't you bring this, and so it's just like we still deal with it, but people are starting to catch on to how we're evolving, and we're just doing it our way, and we have our own sound, and eventually that was the initial task of the band, to just to break down those barriers and be looked at as a national, international touring act on the same level as a Jay-Z or even a Michael Jackson. It's possible, it could be done, but so yeah.
What is the stereotypical, I guess, expectation of a band from New Orleans? What are they looking for that they don't see in the Soul Rebels, and why why do they feel upset about just not enjoying what you guys are doing?
Well, I think, like I said, a lot of times with it is, like I say, I always tell the guys when I say it's like a brochure that you're going to get from New Orleans, basically telling you what to expect for as the music, the food, and, just the culture. It's like, you might see Zydeco being promoted and brass bands are being promoted, with, say, the black and white, playing the old traditionals. And then you even can get, to the point where you get, the Meters and the Neville Brothers, and they have their own, sound. And the thing about it is, with us, like you said, we've always wanted to do like you said, was true to us. So it's the thing that we tell people all the time, in New Orleans, there's so many different genres of music that don't even get the light of day. So, like lately, you've been getting it. Like even like the guys like Beyonce and Drake, they've stole different songs like bounce music and stuff like that. Even they've added those songs. And that's becoming like a popular sound. But you're talking about a sound that was born in New Orleans in 1991. We've been listening to that sound, bounce music, for years. But now, it's starting to get commercial acclaim, which you got people like Drake's and, like I say, Beyonce's and stuff like that. And the thing about it is, a lot of that different music, Soul Rebels has been trying to do from the beginning. It's just hard sometimes, like breaking that barrier, and just getting people to understand that New Orleans has more to offer than just the stuff that you hear about all the time. Even like when you have big events like the Super Bowl and All-Star Game and all of that stuff come through the city, it's like, it's you kind of know what music they're probably going to present if they're trying to present the image of New Orleans. And the thing that we're hoping with our work and stuff in this music industry is that the world starts seeing that there's actually more bands like Soul Rebels. There are more groups like bounce groups like Jubilee and Big Frida. And you have groups like Tank and the Bangers, that's not necessarily doing quote-unquote New Orleans music. It's like you said, all of us, from all the guys that I named, like you said, we want to be looked at as just the Soul Rebels, not necessarily a band, like you say, from New Orleans. And I think the more that, people, once they meet us and start telling other people to view us that way, I think that helps a lot. A lot of interviews we do, we kind of try to get that point across. And, a lot of people, when they hear us, they're like, man, this music is not what I expected it to be, but I love it. Our goal has always been trying to merge people that probably won't even think to even want to hear, quote unquote, New Orleans music. We've been at many shows and people be like, I don't even know how I came. A friend of mine just told me come out. They had a band. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really into this kind of music, but that was because I didn't even know what it was about. There was something about what you guys are doing. I love it. It's something I can get into. And that's the thing that we're trying to show the world, that we're trying to push that thing, but there's many other bands in New Orleans that's trying to push that same thing. We think a lot of, we've been fortunate lately, post-Katrina, a lot of bands have been getting some notoriety that's doing different things outside of the norm of New Orleans, quote-unquote, stereotypical music. So like I say, and at the end of the day, all of us started in the roots of learning the traditions of the music. That's the thing that we always tell people. We're not people that just got into this industry and say, man, we're going to just do what we want. We understand in everything you have to pay your dues. You have to go to college to get a degree. You have to, do what you have to do in this music to be respected in it. And I think that's the thing that helped us a lot, because most people know that Soul Rebels didn't just start doing hip-hop when they got in the business. They know we, did our homework, learned the true traditional music, because the traditional music of New Orleans, from a musical standpoint, teaches you a whole lot. Yeah. About chord changes and stuff like that. So, for us, that helps us when we're doing all of these different collaborations with different bands. People be like, are those collaborations difficult for you guys to learn musically? For us, being that we started out doing the traditional and learning jazz and learning about chord changes and stuff like that, those songs are really easy for us to pull off. It's really about, for us, is making sure we got the right rhythm, groove locked in for that specific genre. But for us musically and stuff like that, it's really easier for us to do like the pop tunes and the hip hop tunes and stuff like that.
Throughout the the existence of this band, like you've been saying, you've always been sort of really true to what you guys want to perform. But then like it got to this point where you guys are contributing to television and film. You're start to tour a lot. You're having these big name opening slots. You're collaborating with a lot of different music artists. When did that start get popping? How did that all get set in motion?
I think the first guy we collaborated with was Slick Rick. And from there, it was just an ongoing effort and a building process. I mean, it went from Slick Rick, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew, and eventually, a lot of cats started catching on to what we were doing, and it was good for both parties because for a lot of those artists, they hadn't really done anything with a band of this caliber, especially the instrumentation. So it was a new experience for them. And for some of them, it was challenging because, they really didn't know how to operate with a horn band. They were used to dealing with keyboards and guitars, but when you were on stage with a sousaphone, half of them was looking like, what the hell is this? So, but it was definitely for some a learning process for both of us. And some of them were really natural. I mean, I remember, Nas, he's been around horns his entire life, so it was more of an organic equation, yep. and it fit, so perfectly. So he was well versed on the music, as well as a lot of others who were heavily influenced by jazz and stuff. So the collaboration, Rakim, Rakim actually plays saxophone, so. Yeah. It was super natural for him. Like he was just like blown away and ecstatic that he got to work with us, and it was the feelings were mutual. So I mean, Slick Rick for sure was the first one that I can recall that we did, and that was just a trickle down effect. And even with that, it was all baby steps. We didn't just start with the Nas's and the top tier guys. We literally started at the bottom. Yeah. And we went from this artist to that artist, and this artist started spreading the word, and so we kind of just paved that way. We still knocking, trying to knock down doors, So it's an ongoing process, and we're not done. The mindset was kind of like we wanted to mimic the roots to an extent, but the instrumentation is obviously different. But, that was kind of the mindset. And I think that was kind of their plight as well, coming up on the scene in Philly during that era with the neo-soul blues. So they were kind of just like the band for everybody. And those relationships built over time, and they eventually became who they were. And that's kind of the same road we trying to go in there. But, it's just a little different with the instrumentation. But so yeah, that's
they got a sousaphone now.
Yeah, exactly. They have a sousaphone now. The reason they have a sousaphone is because they came to New Orleans. They did a show right after Hurricane Katrina, and
actually the first guy they picked up was a guy from New Orleans on sousaphone.
What?
So I think, it was a show that House of Blues that I think we opened up for him at it.
Oh yeah, the cool cigarette tour, huh?
Yeah, we opened up for them, and I don't know if for sure that was the reason why they did it, but I know, some of the guys in the band definitely said that we made a mark on them after they seen our show, and it was like, man, you guys are doing some cool stuff. Like I said, I don't know. A while after that, they ended up with a tuba, so no telling. Yeah, what was the inspiration behind that. But like you said, with the hip-hop music, they've always been using and sampling, live horns and stuff like that. So for a lot of those guys, it's the being able to, like you said, to get on stage with an actual live horn band, and it's not the norm, not the guitar, like you said, keyboards, all full horns. And every time we do it, it's like, guys, everybody we've done it with is, the expectations, I think, I don't know what they usually are, but they're really surprised after the collaboration. It's like you can tell it's not what they expected, and it's always seemed like it's been a good response. So we're definitely looking forward to doing many more things like that. And for us, it's fun, man. Just, we got the things that we do, but we love those different challenges and curveballs. We love to get on stage with a Metallica and see, how we hold up.
I'm looking at a lot of the television and film appearances that you guys had, and it isn't necessarily you guys just having your music featured in these shows. It's that you guys are actually appearing. What was sort of the experience with all of that when they needed that sort of authentic, Southern or New Orleans like appearance of music, a band that's authentic, one of my favorite shows that you guys were on was The Originals, and that's something that was, a show that was always, showing New Orleans. It was based in New Orleans. So what was your experience with, being a part of, all these different, shows, being sort of like that, authentic piece of New Orleans that they probably were looking for?
Well, it's just like you're playing a part for us when we're hired to do that particular persona for the role. We're just blessed that we authentically know what the role requires. But if we were given the chance to be actually who we are on stage, it would be something different. We had been in movies for a while. We were in Pelican Brief with Denzel Washington, and it was a purely authentic New Orleans scene. I remember the JFK movie. They took a snippet of us marching on the street. And usually, like the brothers said, when they think of New Orleans and they think of New Orleans music, they automatically think of a brass band. So they usually put us in that particular role. And that's the mindset we have. We give them our best effort to portray what they want us to portray for that role. I mean, it's an honor to be in films. What the other one was? Girls Trip, y'all?
Girls Trip, yeah. Girls Trip,
that was probably...
Like you said, we did the originals, too, when we were on stage, that vampire show.
Oh, that's the original. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that was the originals. Then would probably have to be the closest to what we do on stage, because I think we were doing didn't we do 504?
Yeah, I think we did do 504, and we did another tune. It was funny, in the video they had us all in different things. I think I was sitting at the piano, so that was definitely pure role playing something separate from different from what we did. Yeah, I think they did shoot in Atlanta.
Yeah, it was in Atlanta.
That's like you said. That's a lot of stuff that we're hoping to do more of, like movies and acting. And we have guys with a lot of personality in this band, and that's the one thing we're trying to focus on now is, showing the different personalities of the different members in the band. It's like everybody's unique in their own way. It's a lot of times with brass band, it's always been just pushed as it's the group. But
right.
we're trying to show now that, people have favorites in their band. Now it's trying to find out ways to get different people connected to fans of their own. Like Julian itself might just have its own core group of fans. And it's like, we figure all that's going to help the group as a whole, letting people feel more personal with us, having a personal touch with us. You got guys that sneakerheads that's, that don't mind connecting with Lamar online and asking him what's the latest shoes that he's getting. And that's the thing we're focusing on now is trying to show the individual personalities in the band and introducing everybody on their own platform.
Now, I'm a big wrestling fan, and I see that you guys performed the New Day theme back in 2017 on SmackDown Live. Like, how was that experience?
Man,
that was awesome.
Can we be honest?
Go ahead.
It was just to work with them guys is awesome, man. That was a big production like that. It's definitely an honor that they even consider you being worthy of sharing the stage with them. Yeah, even now, we're, like I said, Soul Rebels, we're willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. We had our costumes on. It was definitely, I'll put it like this, it was definitely an experience. I'll put it like that. It was definitely one of those experiences that we won't ever forget.
That's what like they're saying. That I like that you're a wrestling fan. I love wrestling too. I'm more of a vintage guy with the Ernie Ladd and Junkyard Dog days.
Yeah.
But the wrestling that now is so mainstream and one of the biggest corporate moneymakers in society, like Marcus and Julian said, we were just honored to be chosen to be part of the set. But it was a wild experience. That's another time, our fellas, I guess we really just played our role when we were hired to do. But now that I'm thinking, when you started talking about the cinema part and the movie thing, I guess that Originals would have to be the closest to what we do on stage that was represented on film. I mean, even the Girls Trip thing was really purely an authentic New Orleans style performance. I'm trying to think. I mean, we've done a lot of things. That's probably the only one.
Yeah, that's probably the closest one.
Yeah, that's probably the closest one. I mean, we really are some urban, up to date type guys. So our videos now are really the purest representation that we finally have on visual for the world to see. And it gives you the full brunt of the musicality, the profiling, the imagery, and like you said, most of all the individuality of each member, like a group, So we're just looking. Hopefully, the sky's the limit. The NFL Honors was cool too. I mean, that was a real professional experience. Chosen to be the band for that event, because they usually pick bands that have the traditional instrumentation, keyboard, bass guitar, lead guitar, vocalist, and then either the tracks or the drum beat, drummer set, drum machine, etc., whatever. But for us to be chosen for that event, and then to not even play traditional music, it was a pure honor. So
definitely.
That really showed the musicality and professionality of us as a legitimate group out here, the NFL Honors.
When you look at a group like a band like The Roots, that when they first started to be really popping in the mainstream crowd, they were backing artists like Eminem and Jay-Z. They were on MTV with all of that, and then all of a sudden they were kind of like the band that people went to when when they wanted that sort of feel to a TV performance or a live performance, and you guys kind of feel like you're like in that same vein. How important is it for you guys to want to be that band that when a movie wants that authentic jazz feel, they go to you. If an artist wants that authentic sound like that, they come to you. What's your thoughts about being a band that artists or TV movie execs go to when they want that particular sound?
The thing about it that I like about it is with the Roots is that yes, they're a band that's, like you said, that's being called for that, but they've proven that they can actually stand on their own too without that. Right. And that's the thing that Soul Rebels is definitely, that we try to do in this. We do a lot of collaboration and performing with different artists and stuff like that. But the true thing that we feel that we bring to the table that we're able to stand on our own too. And that's the thing that I highly respect about the Roots. It's like, they're the go-to band for the backups, but the Roots do a show that's going to sell out just based on their own pure music and not just because they've backed up Jay-Z or they just, people respect them as just the Roots alone. And I feel like that's the thing that for us, that's the thing that we're pushing for, that we hope to accomplish that same thing doing these different collaborations, that, it's able, when we actually able to get in a room with these guys and they really find out these guys are not just some good people, but they're some bad musicians. It's like, it's sad to say sometimes that New Orleans musicians have a perception, that people have a perception of New Orleans musicians that it's just some guys that might just picked up a horn and just started playing without any kind of training or anything like that. So it's, it's still funny in 2019 when you get in the studio with a top-notch producer and musicians and stuff, they're still surprised at what Soul Rebels is able to pull off in the studio. It's like still shocking to them. And that's the thing, like we're just hopefully through our endeavors and things that we've been doing, hopefully people get to the point where they look at us like if I'm bringing in a Lloyd Hargrove or whoever, Santana or, whoever you bring in the studio, they look at us the same way as like what's expected is the same thing that you would expect from them. And I've noticed from every experience that we've been in the studio, we've definitely, I feel, accomplished that, and we're opening a lot of people's eyes. And like I said, hopefully we get many more opportunities like that to show people that we're a standalone group on our own, just by ourselves,
And you mentioned before that there's, there is other groups, other bands out there, like yourselves, pretty much everywhere. To bands like that, what sort of advice would you give to them in regards to, standing on their own with their own material, but also how to work within the music industry to be that band that people call upon when they need a live backing band or something to put in a movie or TV show?
Well, I think initially, man, you have to stay true to yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, then how can you expect someone else to? Also, you gotta be pretty keen on developing your own style and swagger, because people adapt to originality a lot. So I think that's one of the main components I can think of for sure. Because Soul Rebels, we're super original. We have our own style. I mean, even and unfortunately in this business, everything is about perception. So even I know for sure, when we are perceived differently just because of the way we look. Right. You can come to New Orleans and you'll probably see maybe 10 brass bands, but 9 times out of 10, majority of them will probably look the same. But you'll see Soul Rebels. You'll be like, oh, this is a whole different look. I mean, their approach is different. The way they carry themselves. So all of that kind of comes into play, especially when you're dealing with the industry, because they're looking at every little minor thing. So you gotta find a way to stand out, and I think originality for sure, and being confident in what you are and what you believe in, and I think that's definitely helped us thus far.
And being professional, definitely.
Yeah, being professional.
Like the first thing you said when you got on the phone, it's not like the first time we hear that, and we pride on ourselves on making a good impression. You say something simple as, if you say, man, I need Soul Rebels there for 2:00, we're going to be there at 2:00. We respect people's time just like we hope people respect our time, and we just respect people in general. And that's the thing that we always try to portray everywhere we go, man. We're going to give nothing but the respect to whoever we're dealing with, from the guy that's mopping the floor at the club to the promoter to whoever. We're going to give them the same respect, because we figure that's one thing, all of us has been raised on that. Our parents has instilled that in us, and it's something that we just take with us for the rest of our days, and we're going to always do that. And that's one thing we really pride ourselves on, just being professional. We figure that goes a long way.
Is there any times where you have to sort of push back respectively on something that maybe you don't agree with, or creative differences, and how do you do that?
Well, definitely. I mean, that's probably I'm sure a normal occurrence for any artist I mean, you get moments when you're pigeonholed and you just draw some type of line in the sand that we got to do it. Let's talk about it. Let's negotiate. Let's at least we have to do it this way or whatever. So, I mean, it's that's going to occur throughout the career. I mean,
we've had our Trump experience. We've had to respectively decline something. It's like you said, at the end of the day, you like you say, you have to stand for something. You never know. At the end of the day, like Lamar always says, you got to have a word and you got to be true to who you are. At the end of the day, everything else going on in the world, the main thing you want to have is a word, and you want to be respected for who you really are. So that's one thing we're going to always do. We're not going to, per se, prostitute ourselves just for the sake of trying to fit in. At the end of the day, we figure there's a million people in the world that love us for who we are. So why should we try to portray the role of somebody else just to try to fit in?
Yeah, and like they mentioned earlier on, we went through a lot of bumps and bruises, a lot of criticism, first from your home team, and then from the purists of jazz, to just regular, ordinary vendors who feel sometimes we're just too aggressive. But we're kind of blessed. I mean, not kind of, but we are blessed because we've already kind of established a platform. So we can kind of turn down some things and still know that there are other horizons on the other side where we're going to still get fulfillment, But some groups, may not be in that position. When you're trying to hustle and scratch and crawl to make it, sometimes you got to do a few things to augment your style just to get your foot in the door. But you can't totally not have a word and sell yourself out. Because it's like anything else, if they can get you like that, then somebody else feel they can get you, then eventually you become pigeonholed. So it's a tightrope. That's what this business entails. But man, I never envisioned it would be this long. I mean, this time has went with a blink of an eye for me being one of the older members. I mean, it has. It's just remarkable, and it's just a blessing. So, it's a tightrope. You got to stick to your guns, but then too, you got to know when to dip and dab. We're on the other side of the curve now. We're totally kind of sticking to our guns because we've already went through a lot of the bumps and bruises. Still, I'm sure some on the way, but we're on the other side of the curve now.
Nice. Getting back to the album Poetry in Motion, one of my favorite tracks on there is Down for My City. It's such a fun tribute to New Orleans. Can you talk about like the making of that, how that all came about?
Originally we got in the studio, we agreed to do a collaboration with Manny Fresh. And we got in the studio, we vibed out on a bunch of different tracks. And so we stumbled upon one. We was like, all right, this one seems pretty cool. It had a good feel to it, a good groove. And, we kind of brainstormed off of that. And some of the guys, got to a melody line. And so a melody line came about. And, Manny was present, and, he was coming up with all these ideas and concepts about lyrics and stuff. And, we kind of, it's Manny Fresh, so we just like, all right, cool. He telling us this, so we kind of like leaning towards, the direction he's going in. And, so we kind of just left the ball in his court after the musical element was pretty much, set in place. But, after time, it just kind of, the song was kind of like at a standstill. And, I just was like, well, it's obviously a good track, and we obviously want to use it, but at some point we got to get the ball rolling because we can't sit around and wait on Manny Fresh and, whatever his vision was. So, I had an idea. I was like, maybe we can do, since Manny Fresh is on the track, maybe we could do like an old Hot Boys tribute but instead changed the words. So if you listen to the words, it's basically one of the old Hot Boys tunes, "We on Fire," and it was basically paying homage to the city. You know, instead of saying what kind of blank would do this, we say what kind of city. And in the concept of the structure of the song is the same. You know, every Hot Boy member will come in and do, 4 bars, and then the next one will come in. So we have 8 guys in the band. Mathematically, it only made sense. And all we needed was to throw in 8 features to complete the song, and that's kind of how.
Like you said, we needed 8 more people. Then we thought about it. We thought about it. Would it be cool to get a lot of the old New Orleans legends to get on the record with us? A lot of the guys that haven't gotten that mainstream love. Some of them have and some haven't. It was like we wanted to make it into more of a family type tune. So it was able to get guys like Jubilee and Trombone Shorty and Mia X, and we even decided to throw Emerald Lagasse in there. We just was like, let's just get a whole bunch of different people that the city know and recognize and love to get on a record with us, and just make it a whole family tune. It turned into just one of those family type vibes, and it's definitely a track we're proud of. Got one of the famous DJs in New Orleans, Wild Wayne, to get on there and do his famous skit that we grew up on the radio, him doing every night. So it's like we wanted to make it where anybody from New Orleans hear it, they can grab something off it and just make them. We always every record we try to do something to show love to our city. Like the last record was 504, which was dedicated to everybody that was displaced after Katrina and stuff like that. So we always, every record we try to make something where we can connect with our, New Orleans people and let them know that we're always thinking of them. And, every time we're in the studio, we're going to definitely make something that they can connect to.
Before we get out of here, you have the new album Poetry in Motion coming out, and then is there anything else that you can talk about? Is there anything that you have in the works?
Well, like I say, what Poetry in Motion, like I say, coming out. We're always working on new music, so that's something we've been doing. Like I said, the rest of this year we're kind of going to be laying low, pretty much putting together a show for our Poetry in Motion tour. So, we have a few things, like we go to Philly for New Year's, and we're going to do Florida next week. But like I said, a lot of stuff we're going to be doing now is really focusing on putting together a great show for our tour in 2020.
Sweet.
And like I said, we're still working on music. We're always working on music and collaborating with different artists. We do a lot of producing on the side, so, we're writing music for different artists and stuff like that, too. So we're always busy, so we're definitely keeping it going.
Nice. All right. It's been great talking with you guys. Like I said, the album is fantastic. Can't wait for other people to hear it. Before we get out of here, where can people go online to get more information about the Soul Rebels?
TheSoulRebels.com for up-to-date information and all of the tours and things like that. And there's the social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can get us on there and see up-to-date information also to check into the band.
And like I said, the record's going to be on all musical platforms, so we're not going to be on the phone.
So, that's the show. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Breakin Records podcast, brought to you by Fresh is the Word. Hosted and produced by Kelly K. Fresh Frazier, empowered by Anchor at anchor.fm/Breakin Records. Breakin Records is available on all major streaming platforms. Please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. If you want to support Breakin Records and Fresh is the Word, please consider pledging via Patreon at patreon.com/FreshIsTheWord. Follow Breakin Records on social media, on Twitter at BreakinRecPod, on Instagram at Breakin Records Podcast, and join the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/FreshIsTheWord. For more information about Fresh is the Word and Breakin Records, along with the Renaissance Soul podcast, plus a collection of pop culture articles and reviews, please visit freshisthepodcast.com. Thank you for listening and your support. Goodbye and good night.
Breaking records in the city where I live.